boys here are trying to remove the carpet and headliner and stuff. So we'll see how good of a job they do on that. Got Kal-El in there removing the rear carpet there. The floor of the cab actually is in pretty good shape. I'm kind of surprised here for being a 92. It actually looks pretty dang good. So, gonna get to cleaning this up and then going to start measuring for the main hoop as soon as Kal-El gets the rest of these clips off. And I know he's enjoying having to do that.
No.
Why not?
Because they keep coming.
Floor's really good on this truck. Like that little tiny bit of rust there is the worst of it. The rocker panel on the other hand and the front fender there is a little worse. The fender, I believe I'm just going to go with Racer's Edge fenders. So I'm just going to replace the rocker panel for now. I may make a patch panel for that just for looks right now for the front fender. Not really sure what I'm going to do there. But I'm going to be replacing this rocker panel. And I bought the cab corner, but the cab corner is in great shape, so there's no reason for me to do that. So get cutting this holes and see how it works. So, starting to cut this rocker panel off. As I showed earlier, just had that little tiny hole. The rest of the outside of the rocker looked perfect. This is why you go ahead and replace a lot more. All this was hiding under there. That's the reason I cut it out like that. Just for one, to kind of show how much crap is in there. And for two, just to make things a little easier. The top line my wife wanted to cut off. So, you know, I just went ahead and let her do that anyway. Just to kind of learn that tool. But you can see it's pretty rusty right there. If I went ahead and painted that, even though the outside's perfect, in a year it would have been bubbling and looking like hell. So that's why you go ahead and do it. Alright, so I cut the rocker out. I may still trim some more back there. Not real sure. It looks pretty clean on the inside, other than some mud. Now, up there I still have some more to do. But right through here, it's pretty rusty on the inner rocker. Now, I cleaned it off, and granted, it should be okay to use some rust inhibiting primer or some chromate conversion on it. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. That way I never have to worry about it ever doing that again. It's just the easiest way to do it. And then I never have to worry. And it'll last longer than the truck ever will. So that's what I'm going to get ready to do now. I'm just going to cut that out, and I have some sheet metal that I bought probably 16 years ago over there. So it's not going to cost me anything. And then I'll kind of make that rain channel again. Not really overly worried about making that look too pretty under there. Nobody's ever going to see it but me. Alright, I got a quick update. I've just now realized that I already have a little tripod that I can actually film myself doing some of this work. So I'm going to do that here going forward to make it a little nicer other than just these little updates. So I went ahead and I got rid of the rocker panel completely. Up here in the front and the rear, you just set the rocker panel in place and then cut both pieces at the same time. So you make you a line on the outside of the new quarter panel or rocker panel, and then you just go ahead and use your little cutoff tool and cut both pieces at the same time. That way there's no issue about the panels not fitting. You're not guessing. It's exactly right. If it leaves a little bit of a gap, which is what you want, that's fine. Now I went ahead and cleaned some of this up. I trimmed the patch panel there at the bottom, because when you do a patch panel like I did here, you don't need to worry about putting the bottom exactly where it needs to be, because you might come off a little bit short, and that's just silly. Make it a little bit long, and then you can just line up from here, line up over here to a straight line with a straight edge, and then cut it, and then it's perfect panel every time. Now here in the back, I've got the rocker panel removed in the back too. I've done the same thing. Kind of sucks I don't have a spot weld removing tool, but if I would have ordered one, it would have taken a couple days to get one. Harbor Freight locally has them, but you use them for about 5 spot welds and then they don't work anymore. So I'm not worried about these holes, because on the back side you can weld. You already got your holes for your spot welds done. You just got to do it from underneath. It's not a big deal. Got the cab corner removed, because on these S10s, just like a lot of the trucks, you have to do the rocker panel first, and then you do the cab corner. Now I did the same thing. I just kind of laid it up and traced it out with a tape. That's how I keep everything straight. I use tape or I use a laser, but it just depends on what I want to do. Cut that through there, and then drill your spot welds out. Cut through both pieces at the same time. Now, the cab corner and the rocker panel comes with a whole bunch of extra pieces. Caleb, hand me that extra piece of cab corner. Right here. Now, one thing, now this is the bottom piece of the cab corner, but that works, it'll show them. Throw me the other piece of it too though. So this is a cab corner. Once you get it fit up in there, okay, and that'll be real nice looking once it's all done. And one good thing, there's no rust. Now these come a lot larger than what I end up using, because you don't want to cut any more than you have to. Because if I throw the extra piece that I cut off on there, you can actually see how much larger that thing is. Now, the reason I don't use them all that extra is because this body line right here is never the same as a quality Chevy part. Now, I buy my panels from Tabco right here in Ohio. They are made in the USA for 99% of all their products. A lot of them, they even use the GM stamping. These S10 pieces, the rocker panels aren't quite as nice as they should, so I know that they're not using a genuine GM stamping for these. That would be nice if they did. I know for a lot of their cars, Tabco does use the original GM tooling. So you don't ever want to use too much. You know, this here, that gets up a lot higher. If you need that because your rust goes that high, then by all means you have to do that. But you want to get away with as little as possible. On mine, I actually could have went even lower and just done it down through here, but that's a good safe place to go ahead and do it. Leaves me a little bit of room below the body line, so when I weld this and then I blend it, if I have to use any filler, which I have done these cab corners, I don't know, 3 or 4 different times, and I haven't even needed any filler at all. Just the filling primer was enough to blend that in, and no one would ever know that I replaced the cab corners. Sometimes you get that lucky. Now, I'm going to take and I'm going to use some weld-through primer. And the weld-through primer is kind of a misnomer. You can't weld through it. You actually have to grind it away just like you do with regular paint. So what I use is, a lot of times I'll use the cold galvanizing primer from Home Depot. It's local, it's cheap, it works. It's very similar to the weld through. It does what I need it to do. Now, earlier today, my oldest son came over and he helped the boys and the wife and I take the bed off. Now, the bed needs to be removed so we can do the cab corner. And since we're going to be doing a cage in here and making this either an 850 cert or a 750 cert, I'm not sure which way I want to go yet. We're going to be driving it on the street a lot. And driving it on the street kind of makes me a little bit nervous to drive that with a funny car cage. So I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet. So we need to clean up this. I'm going to get rid of that cross member in the rear. Go ahead and touch that cross member, bud. That's coming out, and the tube one is going to go in its place just because that's heavy and it's ugly, and why not? The inside of the frame rails are gonna clean up. The truck just has a little bit of surface rust. There's nothing bad about it. Don't let the video, show that it's worse than what it is. It's really not. It's just a little bit of flaky surface rust. It'll come right off, and not too big of a deal. Now, the shocks I put on here when we first bought this thing, the shocks were horrendous. So I bought a set of the Summit drag shocks, and this truck is supposed to be my wife's. She's being kind of reluctant on wanting to drag race it. She kind of stole my Miata that I got for road racing, and says that's hers now, and she's giving me the truck. So we'll see, but we painted the shocks pink just because she likes pink, and the exhaust on the 2.8 liter blows on that shock. That's why it's kind of crappy. So the truck's been lowered. I don't much care for that too much. The front's been lowered too much. I need to put factory spindles on it and get rid of these 2-inch drop spindles. When I bought this truck, I bought her some wheels and tires, and her nickname is Mel from me, so I took the Jegs Stars center caps and peeled that Jegs sticker off and had a hot pink Mel logo put in there for her. Here soon, this 2.8 is coming out. I would have already be taking it out right now, but I actually need this S10 to go get the metal for the roll cage. And my Suburban right now, my oldest son drove it and broke the G80 locker in it. It's a common thing, so this is what I have to tow right now. I could use the Volvo, it has a hitch on it, but it's a little hairy to drive in this cold weather with drag radials. Alrighty, see you guys in a bit.